people, I'll let some of you tune in. Till then, I'll share the video as usual. Put my phones on silent. Just share this, people. All right. Right. Just trying to. Ah, damn. Almost there. I see the people are live and ready, locked and ready to go. Right, is this it? Just in case I share something else. Don't want a scandal now, do I? Right. Un momento, por favor, un momento. Right. Just sharing this from my general page. Where's my... Yes, salam. Look at that. And I'm trying to look for my... I have all these emojis. Emojis and these GIFs, whatever they're called, are a godsend. Alright, can't find that anyway. Right. Almost done. Right, is that a success? Let me just check. Yep, I believe so. Alright, ahlan wa sahlan bikum. Inna alhamdulillah wa kafah. Wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulih al-Mustafa. Wa ala ibadihi alladhina irtada. Wa man bihudahum ihtada. Wa bi athari ahli al-Madinah iqtafa. Wa ba'd. Fasalamu Allahi ala al-qawm. Ahlan wa sahlan bikum wa bienvenidos a lección de esta semana, mi gente. Khush Amadid and swagatam people, swagatam. And we've got, sorry, the roadman, wagwan, as I can see Mo Shahid saying wagwan. So wagwan as well, people, wagwan. Right, you're always wearing the same. This is it. I have no other clothes. Now I actually have a ton of these kind of similar tops. See, that's my problem. I do all my shopping online, so when I buy something I just buy like about half a dozen of everything I buy. Or are all of these sessions just one session pre-recorded with the illusion that they're live? Matrix. So, people, ahlan wa sahlan, right? You accept zakat. I accept zakat. You want to give your zakat this way? Oh, yes, please, go for it. I could do with what kind of... I suppose I could upgrade my Range Rover. You're a disgrace. Mudassir Rahman. Mudassir. Tell me, Mudathir. Why is I can understand the dal has a shad on it. Mudathir. Why has first of all, it's not an S, it's a tha. Secondly, why have you decided to give it an extra S? So, Mudathir. At least I can spell my name correctly. Right, kafir. Okay, well, guess who's getting blocked? Naughty. People, it's nice to always be welcomed straight away. Look at that. I haven't even been able to go to the hairdressers. Ah, goddamn, maybe tomorrow, inshallah. It's been, nevertheless, an awesome week, people, as always. Well, you see, I'm so into my gadgets. You see, check these out. Bowers and Wilkins, got these. Checking them out. I'll give you guys the feedback, how they, what my rating so far. Some pros, some cons. I just had 2 weeks ago the Sennheiser wireless Momentum 2. Tried them out. I'm trying out different ones. This is how I pass my time. This is what I do. So right now, other than that, this week, what else has happened? Let me get my drinks open. Right, so DJ's one, block him. All right, mock and block crew. If you can be active and block the unnecessary trolls. Did you start the Quilliam Foundation? No, I did not. Awesome, awesome. Right, so Mudathir. Look, see, here's a Mudathir who knows how to spell his name. Ahlan wa sahlan Mudathir. Not like the one we just blocked. Ahlan wa sahlan Mudathir. Ahlan wa sahlan. Right, so have you seen Ibrahim, Abu Ibrahim? Aman Farouk, you're a bit late. Abu Ibrahim, I've already responded to him. I've made my video, I've responded to him. I've responded to Maulana Zakaullah from Green Lane. I've done some responses. Keep up to date. Man, what's going on? Is Red Bull Halal? Well, thus I give the fatwa. Hell yeah, it's halal. And I've drank it just to prove it's halal. And if it's haram by any chance, let's just say it's haram, then I drank it to prove it isn't kufr. We were visited by Ustadha Tahera Ahmad this last week, just a few days ago, from Chicago. So that was an awesome visit. You know, it's interesting because she's an Ustadha chaplain from the United States, works really well with a lot of the scholars. Really, I mean, so especially the American ones. So, and she's very well known for her recitation. So I put some of that on Instagram and Snapchat. And it's interesting, I immediately got the Astaghfirullah, Ya Akhi, Ya Akhi. Yeah, is this how is she there with you? Haram. One guy's like, Astaghfirullah, how can you be like? I mean, there were other people in the room, but he's like, do you not fear fitna? What am I, like a serial rapist or something? Was somebody in the room like that? I don't know what's the... Akhi, do you not fear fitna? People, man, chill out. Chill out, people, chill out. Seriously. So... other than that, it's been awesome. I take it I've ticked off a few people, as always. I'm always doing that. So a few people have watched my responses and they're a bit annoyed. Let me just get one thing clear. Looking like the sloth from the Goonies. That's unfortunately like some of the... It's unfair, isn't it? Why is it that as Muslims, the religious lot like let's say anybody, by this I'm stretching this definition now to mean anybody who associates, doesn't just respect, but let's say is part of the kind of religious scene somewhere or another. Maybe they study, maybe they watch things, maybe they support things. Why is it we get all the retarded ones? It's just not fair. It's like, why do we get all the kind of like the gifted and talented? The sunshine group, I'll just use crayons. I'll just use crayons and explain this to you. It's like, why do we get all of them on our side? That's not fair. It's heavily disproportionate, people. It's heavily disproportionate. It should be. Statistics say okay, a one-off, but we just got like the overwhelming people like that. It's just unfair. So anyway, I hope you guys have been having an awesome time, an awesome week. But I wanted to, what I thought is, by the format, by the way, I've taken down some of the questions. I thought I'll kind of intertwine them, people, intertwine. So I'll take some of the questions that have been submitted and some live, and we'll kind of mix them up. I will come there and outwork you, Hassan Yusuf Boucher. Of course you will. Come on, man. I don't claim to be so solid at the gym. I'm just a gymaholic. That's all. I go to a few gyms, but amongst them, Emporium regularly, which I think I have to take a session after today's, after this, because it's been what, 2-3 days. So, if the crew are listening, gym after this. Right. No, I don't. Don't you have any? No. Right, so most of them are from subcontinent. Right. Do you check women's? Look at the apostrophe. Do you check women's out? I check men's out. What is this apostrophe that I'm supposed to be checking of the women's out? Wait there, let's go back to him. Shah of Islam has spoken. The Shah of Islam. The person whose surname Islam has spoken out. He says, it is I, Mr. Islam. Do you check women's, the apostrophe S, women's out? Well, Mr. Shah, you nutty. What is it that you're referring to? So, let me just first of all, blast him into oblivion. And now, well, there you go. See, this is the thing. People come on here and they think, let's mock Mufti. Well, little do you know, I welcome your mocks. And I'll raise you. So, you see, that guy, now that who I've just unfortunately had to block, Mr. Islam himself, the embodiment of Islam, who definitely does not check the women's out, the women's, whatever's missing here after the apostrophe out. Now, you see, this is a fine specimen of the, we got the religious, it's unfair. Yeah, it's not right. You know, it should have been like more of an equal distribution of normal people on the religious side. So what's going down, people? What's going down? What a question. So I thought, look, I'll take some of the questions beforehand. And I'll also take some live, and we'll kind of like intertwine, as I've said. Before that, I'd like to answer about, look, you know, refutations. You know, when I refute people, you have to understand something. I have a simple policy here. I don't mess generally with people. Generally, I don't. Generally speaking, unless of course I'm intoxicated, and I'm usually only intoxicated when I'm suffering from gambling debts, which usually only happens after taking too much cocaine. That's a joke. That's a bad joke. Relax. Do not quote me. Do not quote me. Right, so unless, generally speaking, I do not go for people until they don't call me out. Look, so these people have been calling me out, and then when I respond, they try to take all the, oh my God, you know, this Mufti doing all this. Look, you guys call me out. You guys have got the mimbars. You've got the £1 million institutional backing. You've got the huge denominational followings. You've got the Masjid to supply your speech throughout all your kind of followers throughout the country and the world. Me, I've got nothing. I just sit here and see, according to many people, destitute. I just sit here, right, with my Pepsi and my ice, and just put on my iPad and broadband. So, and I just respond. So if you're going to make a challenge, if you're going to diss me, that's when you get kind of, you may get my attention. Depends. But yeah, so I've had interesting, and I just want to clarify as well. Look, refute my opinions all you want. Yeah. Go for that. I have no problem with that. This, you know, this constant thing of like, I had, like somebody came on today, oh, did you set up the Quilliam Foundation? No, I did not set up the Quilliam Foundation. Right. Oh, are you a government agent? Well, of course I'm not a government agent, but obviously that's a dumb question as it is. Are you a spy? Well, yeah, no, oh damn, I gave it away. I'm no. I mean, first of all, obviously I'm not a spy. Secondly, if I was a spy, that would be a dumb question to ask me. Are you a spy? No, hell no. Where's my antenna? Just like, oh, stop recording. Wire, come in. Sierra Oscar. Oh, is that the police force one? This is Sierra Oscar. So guys, look, enough with all this. Look, just because somebody dresses normal, okay, normal for me, this is normal for me. He has views which are different to you. I would like to use the word enlightened, but let's say, okay, his views don't fit the year, I don't know, 1472, let's just say. They're more in line with 2018. It doesn't make him somebody who is betraying Allah and his messenger. He is an undercover agent working for MI5 or MI6. He has betrayed God and his messenger and is trying to sell out the Muslim community. I mean, for God's sake. I mean, is that the only alternative? Is that the only alternative, that because I have views which I don't buy into this culture of allowing, of what I believe falsely misrepresenting things as haram, therefore I must be a government agent? It's like I said on my opinion about I don't think Jesus is coming back, and people said he must be a government agent. I mean, what does the House of Parliament have to do with Jesus? And why would they be funding such a project? In fact, they actually probably do believe that Jesus, most Christians. Well, anyway, I've answered that before. Let's get back to some other questions. Mufti, we rehearsed this when they ask, are you a spy? You meant to say no. Exactly, I'm sorry. I'm not. I had somebody say that. I had somebody message me, say, look, I respect a lot of your opinions. No, I respect you. No, it began by saying, sorry, your views sound like Quilliam. But, however, I respect you and your efforts. I thought, well, that's very nice, isn't it? Like, your first thing is just stating that you sound, basically, let me translate that for you. You're saying you sound like, let's say, a sellout. That's what you're trying to say to me. You sound like a hidden spy betraying the Muslim community, but I still have respect for you. Why would you have respect for me if you think I'm some kind of a sellout? You know, once I was sitting with my gran many years ago. Let me tell you a little incident. So, may God bless her with his infinite mercy. She's passed away at a very senior old age, the age of 90 plus. So once she was telling me about her childhood, I can't remember why this came up, but she said there used to be this guy. It'd become like a bit of a proverb. I forgot the exact wording of it, but she said there used to be this guy that, like an uncle in the village. He wasn't her uncle, but like, you know, but they never used to like him, so they used to call him like Kallu. Kallu. And Kallu can have many connotations, like just like stupid, or it could go on, I don't know, loads. It's got many connotations to it, but dumb or whatever. And so she goes, once, because they were so out of habit, they used to call him that. So once he was passing, and they wanted to call him. So she said, I called him and I said, Kallu. Then I said, Mama, uncle. And he said, look, जब कल्लू कह दिया तो फिर मामा की क्या जरूरत थी? You know, when you said Kallu, then what was the point of following it up with uncle? You've already dissed me. There's no point in now trying to add an honorific, a respectful term. But yeah, so anyway, coming back to this. So I want to just say something on that, and then I'll come to these questions. Look, when you say your opinions sound similar to, let's say, people like Quilliam, well, they're not. I mean, maybe some opinions are. Maybe some opinions are similar to anybody. Maybe they're similar with your normal kind of Muslims. Maybe they're similar with non-Muslims. Maybe with atheists. Maybe with many things. You can have opinions, people. You can have opinions. It doesn't make you now, if you said, oh, I believe this opinion, right, so now opinion, this must be, you know, you must be agent, you must be spy, you must be a betrayer of Allah and His Prophet. Relax. It doesn't work quite like that. People, and I'll give you an example. On many occasions, first of all, I very clearly denounced, said I've got nothing to do with people like the Quilliam Foundation, and heavily objected to several of their things which are worthy of criticism. And I have said, but unfortunately I've been distracted, that I will be doing a video. There was one thing where Maajid Nawaz spoke about saying that we ought to, what was his word? We ought to condemn a verse in the Quran, about the hitting verse. And I did say that that was utterly unacceptable, and it was a video clip going round of him saying that on his radio station. And I said that these kind of things need to be refuted. Unfortunately, most Muslims don't know how to respond to it. Most Muslim scholars don't know how to respond to that hitting verse, and their responses are absurd. But I did say that, look, that's not the case. No, we do not, and it is utterly unacceptable for Muslims to say we ought to condemn a verse of the Quran. We do not condemn a verse of the Quran. We do not condemn any verse of the Quran. The Quran we believe and hold in the highest esteem as believers, as Muslims. And yes, certain verses are abrogated, certain verses do not carry rulings for today, and they are explained. So, and as is this verse of the hitting, I have explained previously in more depth, and I will do so in the future, that this is an abrogated verse. It is haram to hit, and this was something that was set through the Prophet, through the prophetic wisdom of trajectory hermeneutics, that as time would go, it would become haram. Hence, the students of the companions like Ata ibn Abi Rabah declared it haram in his own age. And this was something that the people before I'd mentioned, that the people prior to the Prophet, and even in the Prophet's time, they lived in a very warrior lifestyle, a very kind of, they were a warrior people. They were like, the only thing I can kind of liken them onto is like the kind of Viking lifestyle. So if any of you are familiar with the kind of Viking thing, it's all about raiding and looting people, and this is what the Arabs were like then. They weren't a people that were kind of settled. I mean, they were settled as in they had their own settlements, but they were more just a warrior people, clan, fighting, raiding, and it was all about that. That was all it was about. Now, in their lifestyle, the men and the women were generally like that. It wasn't just the men. Everybody was a part of that society. So in those kind of societies, there were certain things that everybody accepted and that everybody wanted. And even the women in that society felt that if we do something wrong, if he's a real man, he ought to hit us. Now, this kind of thing, by later standards, is deemed by general people unacceptable. But there are, even today, there's people that hold that kind of view. So, in fact, recently, there was a Moroccan singer who kind of gave an interview saying this, and she caused a lot of controversy by saying that a real man ought to hit his woman. And she was saying, not like beat the hell out of, but if you've done something wrong. Now, today, this is a minority understanding, this kind of worldview, but people don't accept that. And I don't accept it, but I'm saying that in the past, especially in warrior cultures, people were very much like that. And the women were like that as well, that they felt. Now, the Prophet was faced with this society. Now, so what he did was placed, he could have tried to say, okay, let's change everything, let's make social changes, let's do this. But that would have resulted in taking his attention off the mission. So what he did is said, okay, fine, let's place parameters on your practices so things can't be harmful. And he placed parameters and then said that, okay, because this was something even all people, including the women, were a part of it. So the Prophet said, okay, it can't be serious, it can't be like this. And then he said, oh, but if any of you were upon true goodness, you would never hit. And he left it for when this generation and this culture would die out, this would become haram. And that's the understanding. And this doesn't so use. And I'll give you another example. In Sahih Bukhari, you have a hadith that the Prophet went into a house and he saw an agricultural tool. You know, the ploughing kind of stick. That it says, Fara'a alata, it says, Fara'a alata al-harth. He saw one of these ploughing kind of tools. And he said that you know, such a tool does not come in a house except it brings with it misery. And it brings with it kind of like a degraded state, a-dhul. Illa wa adkhala ma'ahu a-dhul. Now the problem is that, wait a minute, agriculture is awesome. Why would the Prophet be kind of saying this thing about agriculture? Because the society in which he lived was a warrior society. It wasn't an agricultural society. Now, if people started to take like if they started to get so heavily involved in fields and stuff like this, it's awesome. But the climate in which they lived, they then became a danger to people around them, because the other people around them that engulfed them were all warriors. And they would raid them, they would kill them, so this is why the Prophet had to kind of address them with what they needed. This wasn't for like us today to say, oh my God, agriculture is bad. Agriculture is not bad, it's awesome. The Prophet was not trying to say agriculture is bad. And Ibn Ashur explains this. Ibn Ashur, the legend, the Shaykh al-Islam of his time, and the Grand Mufti of the Maliki, explains this in his comment on his footnotes on Sahih al-Bukhari, saying that this hadith was because of this. Otherwise, the Prophet was not averse or did not have an issue with agriculture. So it's important to understand these kind of points before we go on and act all. "Oh." And this was another reason why the Prophet didn't want men to be wearing silk and gold and stuff like this, because it didn't suit their warrior lifestyle, because it was important for their survival. Now the Prophet knew in times to come, he said that, look, soon Allah will open up for you the kingdoms and Muslim generations will change, and with that many changes will come, and this kind of thing will be kind of shed and jettisoned because the culture will change. Daniel, have you seen Shaitan? Well, somebody saying I smile like the devil. Maybe I should put on my taqwa face. This is the taqwa face, people. It's like to sit there looking like you're constipated. Right, that's the, why do people assume like being miserable? This is my Layla Majan. There you go. You need to get to sleep. So nice. Jao. ठीक है? जाओ. दरवाजा. Okay. दरवाजा बंद कर दें. So now the thing is, why do people associate taqwa with just looking like constipated? Wow. What a muttaqi. Subhanallah. Sheikh, you must be somebody who always does his tahajjud. No, I've just got constipation. People who, I remember one of our teachers said to us when we were studying in Karachi, Mufti Nazir Sahib, he was telling us a story once. He said, in this day and age, to be accepted by people, you've got to come off as really naive. For people to say like, wow, what a great legend. By the way, those of you just tuning in, click like, click share, get this out there, people, get it out there. Right, so Mufti Nazir said, he goes, I'll give you an example. So he said, I was in, we were in this gathering, and there was this person. They were saying, wow, what a person, what a man of God. He's a pure man of God. And he said, and I asked why, and they said, he doesn't know anything about this world. He keeps himself to himself. And in Pakistan, there used to be this advert, right? There were these huge billboards that would have this kind of face cream called Tibet Snow. So I don't know if you guys have heard of it wherever you are. It's in the UK as well, I think, through Pakistani imports. But it's called Tibet Snow. So when you write that in Urdu, or Urdu script is like Arabic script, it's like Tibet and then snow, Sin, Noon, Wow. So he said, so this person, he read that, and he apparently didn't know what Tibet Snow was. And he said, Subhanallah, look, kya likha hua hai? Look what it says, Tabbat Suno. Like, the surah of the Quran, Tabbat Yada Abi Lahabin wa Tabbat. So he says, Tabbat Suno, like listen to the surah Tabbat. Subhanallah. And the people said, wow, what a wali of Allah. So, you see, this is what it takes to be religious. You got to be kind of dumb and stupid. Like, I don't know the world I live in. Like, oh, wow, what a man of God. He must really be a man of God. Why? So, right, you are Shaitan, brother. Rich, Saeed, Sienu. Well, Rich, what can I say? You bust my cover. It is I, Iblis. People are so sensitive. It's hilarious. Right, let's go through some of these questions, yeah? Right, well, I've got some already submitted. I'll take some of these and I'll kind of mix them up. Those of you just tuning in, Click like, click share, people. Get this out there. Do you even lift, bro? No, I try though. Right, so, okay, let's take a look at some questions. Right. By the prostrating on earth. Okay, here's somebody had asked, is there something about when we do sajda, should we do this on the ground, on actual earth? I mean, I don't mean planet Earth, obviously, but on soil or something natural as opposed to manufactured synthetic things like carpets. Now, like the Shia, for example, do. Now, the Shia, as far as I'm aware, they use something from Karbala or allegedly from Karbala. Now, the Maliki madhab, the school of Medina, does have a recommendation for keeping things natural. Natural, people, natural. So, you will see in all the Maliki fiqh manuals, they will say it's recommended to either use those straw mats or things like this, something natural. That said, I would say, look, don't sweat it too much. Don't worry too much about this. It's not a big deal. Nowadays, in this part of the world, everything is kind of synthetic, artificial, manufactured. By artificial, I mean manufactured. It's okay. You don't need to kind of go out of your way to do something. It's a recommended feature to kind of keep in touch with nature. That's what it is. But most of us in the West probably struggle with that. But it's nothing so huge. It's not, the Prophet never, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, never emphasized that or taught that explicitly. This is just a fiqhi ruling they've taken from his when the Prophet has said, look, جُعِلَتْ لِيَ الْأَرْضُ مَسْجِدًا وَطَهُورًا, the earth has been placed, made as a masjid. Obviously, in the Prophet's time, things were natural. That was just the way things were. But today, so I would say, look, it's fine if you want to keep in touch with nature and do something, that's all good. But you don't need to, get stressed about this in any way. It's fine to pray on the carpet. I don't even read. I just pray wherever I am, wherever I am. I'm just like, I'm at the gym, just Allahu Akbar, just at in the steam room. Allahu Akbar. In the steam room, bro. What's your excuse? But no, so meaning I just pray like on carpet or wherever. I don't normally ask for prayer mats, or even at home I don't tend to use prayer mats. But if you want to use a prayer mat, if you want to use some, that's fine. There's no issues with that. Okay, so that I hope has answered right now. Okay, another question. So here's an interesting, if the closest closet masjid, closet masjid, the masjid's in the closet, is Hanafi, do I wait to pray start Fajr or do I go with them? Right, so look, you can go pray with the Hanafis. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, if they pray Fajr slightly delayed, there's nothing wrong with that. That's, you can, I mean, if you want to pray earlier, you can, but I'm just saying there's nothing. Is it okay to pray direct on soil? Absolutely. Did the Prophet ever pray on a prayer mat? No, he did not. The Prophet never prayed on prayer mats. They just prayed on the floor. Generally, my understanding is on the floor, they may have laid out things like, you get those palm leaves and things like that, just to kind of soften up the floor. But the floor in their time wasn't this kind of hard concrete. You have to understand as well, the floor was, I mean, it was still the ground, but it was softer. It didn't have, it had a softening to it. It wasn't like, today we're going to have marble. They didn't have floor like that. So you have to remember these things as well. Sometimes people will say things like, I want to lie down on the floor, and you might hurt yourself. And people might say, well, people used to do it in the past. Well, they never used to use this kind of a floor. Just to keep these things in mind. Wallahi, he is shaitan. Look at his beard. Malik Musa Khan has figured me out, people. He's a devil. First of all, Musa Khan ji, he is a devil, not his a devil. And you've got like some unnecessary full stops in there. Every I don't know why you can just use, there should be commas really. Paid, look, paid, he is paid. I mean, you've done a full stop, but you've done a space, then full stop. I mean, it's really difficult reading your... So if I'm the devil, one thing for sure, that's definitely not revelation. Because if revelation came with that punctuation, we have got a problem. Problema grande. We've got a huge problem, okay? Because well, Wallahi is shaitan. Look, blades. Look, blades. First of all, it's just one blade, so there's no S on it at the end. I mean, I could write a whole book. But into oblivion you go. So, right, so, na'am. So people are like, look, this guy's the devil. I swear he's the devil. I could swear he's the devil. Well, I don't know. I mean, I always thought the devil would look scary. If the devil's gonna laugh this much, then I'm getting concerned, because I think me and the devil might actually get on. I mean, if the devil's gonna be that much fun. So, right now, so that answers the question of to do with praying and stuff like that. Shall we take the next question? Devil, hell yeah. Can you unblock Khalid Mah? I don't know. Can you talk about the hijab, please? I have spoken about the hijab at great length previously, but I think it's better to refer back to my previous videos. I have said, look, the hijab is something really which needs a whole book on it, really. And unfortunately, I'm not one to write. So the thing is that hijab today, first of all, this is a kind of modern Muslim term, hijab. Hijab wasn't used to mean hijab the way it was in the past. I mean, the Arabic word existed, but the Arabic word wasn't used the way it's used today in Arabic. So today, hijab is like this head covering, and it's not that the word didn't exist, but it didn't have this kind of usage until the 20th century. And as a reaction to colonialism, this kind of thing was brought up. So ironically, it's actually a modern kind of discourse. There were never books written on things like hijab. There were never, historically in the past, it doesn't mean people didn't have discussions on them, but there were never books written about this. The head covering was hardly ever discussed. And the head covering is not called hijab, it's called khimar in Arabic. But today it's called hijab as a modern usage. This is a modern Islamicized kind of use, like it's a reinvented term. So they've taken a term from classical Arabic and reinvented it to kind of reinforce an identity, to kind of argue against colonialism and modernity. So, I mean, the thing is, moving that aside, does this exist? Of course, in Islam it does exist. What we can say is there's two discourses to look at. There's the discourse of the evidence, the Quran and Sunnah, and then there's the discourse of like culture and Muslim rulings over the ages. So unanimously, I would say the Muslim culture has accepted, if we go with the word hijab, Muslim culture has accepted the head covering to be part of this hijab. Almost unanimously, with some disagreements amongst themselves on certain things. If you look at the Quran and Sunnah, it's not as clear on these things. So the Quran isn't really that clear. It's not explicit. It does speak about women should cover themselves, should cover their kind of chest area with you see, now this is the thing, with the remaining of the khimars. Now the question here was, because God has mentioned it, did he also stipulate it, or did he mention it coincidentally? So that becomes the discourse. So this is why I said explicitly. I never said implicitly. You can draw things, of course. And in the Sunnah, there's some Hadith, but the problem is their chains have been criticized. But nevertheless, so there's this discussion. I would say the Muslim culture and scholarly rulings have accepted with some disagreement. I think there was they saw some relaxation to do with the hair. Some people did, like Imam Malik did with for women with their close servants. He didn't hold that kind of severity if the woman was not going to be, if he wasn't the type that she was going to have an affair with. It's funny because when they speak about those people that you're okay with, they will say, oh, those who are like ugly. And so the guy that she does uncover in front of, let's say, he'll probably be like, yeah, thanks. Does that mean I'm just ugly? So these are the kind of, and then some scholars said, well, for example, women don't need to cover the feet. Other scholars said that she doesn't need to cover the forearms, like Abu Yusuf, and some things from Ibn Abbas and stuff like this. And so there's been conflicting narrations, but there's culture that's come along. The main thing that they all agreed upon was a kind of modesty within their cultural setting. Today, can there be a discussion on this again? I think there can be. There's no harm in discussions. I think some people have said this before, like Sheikh Khalid Abul Fadl, who's a student of many of the great Azhari Mashayikh, Muhammad al-Ghazali and other people. He has spoken of this and saying that he's argued for, in my understanding, that the head covering is not essentially, it's part of the culture, but it's not essentially a part of the hijab. That's his understanding. I welcome a discourse on this by the scholars, but you can listen to my previous lectures for more details. Right. Can you advise reverts on how to deal with parents who don't like that they're Muslim and they think they've been brainwashed? Hajar Clayton. Right. English is good. Jabbar Rafiq. Thanks, man. My English is good. I was born in City Hospital, Birmingham. God damn it. God damn me if I can't speak English. Right, so the thing is, right, so you speak the language of Western people. I am amongst the Western people. I born in the Western. I am the Western. So you become thinking like that too. You become thinking like that too? Well, Jabbar, now what to do? Now what to do? What to do? Right. I speak the English only. Only, sir. Only. I am the Mufti Abu Layth only. Now what to do? What to do? You lighten up my day. So, those of you just tuning in, click like, click share, people. Share it, get it out there, get it out there. Right, so, Hajar had asked, what advice do I give to to converts about their non-Muslim parents? Well, kafir! No, that's how not to do it. Okay, this is how not to do it. Let me tell you how the not to do version. You kafir, you will burn in hell unless you say the shahada. I refuse to step in this house that contains alcohol and pork. I boycott thee. Thee has been casted into the depths of hell. Okay, that's how not to do it. Look, these people are your parents. They are your family. They are your siblings. Love them, respect them. I'm sure you'll have disagreements with them. That's standard. Standard human behavior. Right? But the thing is, look, I personally say don't preach to them. That's my personal thing. I'm not into this preaching culture. Right? So, I'm actually very against all this putting up stalls and doing things like this. I mean, people want to do it, it's up to them. I see this thing as counterproductive for Islam. I see this as it doesn't really do well for Islam. That's my understanding. I would say don't preach to them. If they ask you, have a discussion with them. Like, if they engage you in a discussion, have a discussion. Go to their house, just be normal. You don't need to do anything exceptional. I mean, they will know you're Muslim. They will know you have certain values, that maybe you pray and things like this. But you don't need to kind of be abnormal around them. Oh, I can't now be seen amongst. No, you can. Just be normal. That's what I would say. If they call you around to their parties, their festivals, their kind of family get-togethers, go, by all means. Unless you don't want to. So, look, I would advise that's what I would say. And I would say avoid all this preaching, avoid all this kind of like, I need to convert you unless you're going to... Look, if they are interested, they may be interested. They may say, look, okay, so tell me, what does your religion say about this? And then have a discussion with them. But don't kind of shove it. Seldom works, people, seldom works. But I mean, I'm not an expert. My parents are Muslim. I haven't kind of like outcasted them from Islam. Alhamdulillah. Right, so send Bob. Send Bobs. Right, so if they invite me around for Christmas dinner, what should I do? You should definitely go. I would. I would go, and they're not even my parents. There's like one Paki at the table. Everybody's like, who the hell are you? Oh, right, yeah, you're not my parents. Oh yeah. So yeah, that's what I would say, is definitely go, keep the links, keep the ties. It's the best thing you can do. Avoid separatism. I'm very, very against separatism. We should be a part and parcel of where we live. Okay. Do not be separatists. Shaitan Munshi Ji. Khalid Shaitan Munshi Ji. Right, so आप मुस्कुराते अच्छे हो जी किंग राजा शुक्रिया 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 मुस्कुराहट से याद आया उनकी एक मुस्कुराहट ने हमारे होश उड़ा दी आहा their one smile or her one smile होश उड़ा दिए took me unconscious हम होश में आने ही वाले थे कि वो फिर से मुस्कुरा दिए So he says, I was just about to regain consciousness and then she smiled again. What can we do? Right, so let's take another question. People, next question. Okay, a bit of a serious question. Right, so I've been asked that what do you say about some of these narrations to do with things like certain miracles, there's an alleged miracle, let's say, that I've been asked about the tree in the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the tree kind of crying and things like this. And I've also been asked about the moon splitting, and I'll come back to that. I'll deal with this one first and then come to that. I have answered that before, but I'll explain. Now, you see, personally, I do not believe that this to be an authentic narration. Now, these narrations are in several books of Hadith. The narrations are problematic in my understanding. They generally, let's take Bukhari as an example. Now, Bukhari, the narration is usually from Jabir ibn Abdullah radiallahu an, almost always. That's it. It's only from him. Bukhari brings at least these kind of three variants through him. The issue is in one of these, let's say, Bukhari himself, when he's transmitting from his teacher Ismail, he's then transmitting from somebody called Abdul Hamid ibn Abdullah, who is the alleged brother of Ismail. In the chain it says, in some chains it says Abdul Hamid, in some you've got from his brother. People first of all disagree, who is this Abdul Hamid? Some people have said it's Abd ibn Humayd, Abdul Hamid ibn Humayd. Some people are saying no, this here is Abdul Hamid Abu Bakr. It's the brother of Ismail ibn Abi Uwais, who is the nephew of Imam Malik. Now, okay, so fine. Let's go with people saying who it is. Like in the chain that Imam Bukhari brings in one of them, Ismail is saying my brother, and Ismail here is Ismail ibn Abi Uwais, the nephew of Imam Malik, saying his brother told him. Now in this chain, you see this person Abu Bakr, Abdul Hamid, although he is obviously accepted here, but several people have had problems. Certain people have had problems with him. Amongst them, Imam Nasa'i considered him da'if. Okay, da'if. No, but okay, I accept Imam Bukhari has accepted him, but I wouldn't be surprised that's one of the reasons he's not mentioning his name, because he knows there's kalam on him, or where he has mentioned the name, he's put it vaguely, because he knows it's, and this is not new, by the way. Imam Bukhari has done this on several occasions. So Imam Bukhari, for example, one of his teachers, as Muhammad ibn Yahya al-Dhuhli, very famous muhaddith, who in his time became highly controversial, and then people refused to accept from him. Does Imam Bukhari transmit from him? Imam Muslim refused to transmit from him any hadith, considered the hadith like they would reject them. Imam Bukhari transmits from him in over 30 locations, but he would hide his name, and he would do tadlis. He would instead, his name was Muhammad ibn Yahya ibn Abdullah ibn Khalid. His grandfather's name was Abdullah Muhammad ibn Yahya ibn Abdullah ibn Khalid al-Dhuhli. So when Bukhari uses him, he would drop his middle name, his father's name, and use his grandfather's name, Muhammad ibn Abdullah, because he knows he's got several teachers by the name of Muhammad ibn Abdullah, and people won't be sure which one he's referring to. In 3 locations, he drops his grandfather's name and uses his great-grandfather's name, Muhammad ibn Khalid, knowing he's got up to almost 2 or 3 teachers by that name. So people won't be sure. And this is why Dhahabi says that, he says he transmits from him, وَيُدَلِّسُ عَنْهُ كَثِيرًا. He says Bukhari not only does transmit from him, but often kind of does a deceptive one, does tadlis when it comes to his name. So this is not surprising for Imam Bukhari to do that. He does that on other occasions as well. Now that's one of the narrations. There's another narration that he brings once again from Jabir, who you've got from him. There's somebody by the name of Ayman al-Habashi al-Qurashi, whose son is taking it from him. So Ayman is taking it from Jabir, and his son Abdul Wahid is taking it from Ayman. This Ayman, now nobody apart from Bukhari brings him in their books. The main people, people of hadith do not transmit from him. Bukhari only transmits from him in this hadith, otherwise never again. Now that in itself, I'm just saying, it's like it's questionable. It brings a kind of question. Then you've got another chain Imam Bukhari brings, which is once again from Jabir, by Abu Nadra al-Basri, who is known as Al-Mundhir ibn Malik. Now the issue is, although he is accepted once again by several people, yet what does Ibn Hibban say? He says, yes, وَكَانَ مِمَّنْ يُخْطِئ, and he was from people who would make mistakes. Dhahabi says he is a reliable person, he is trustworthy, thiqa, lakin yukhti, but he makes mistakes. Al-Uqayli puts him in the du'afa, in his books of da'if people. Ibn Adi puts him from the du'afa, from the da'if people. He is transmitting from Jabir. Now these are the strongest chains in this, from Jabir. And I've shown you how they've got issues. So, now what I'm trying to say is, look, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to us is the best of creation, the greatest of people to Muslims. We don't need, like to me, I don't need a story like this to make him great. To me, he is great. You see, this is when I said people struggle, like common people struggle with reality. For them, religion must be fantasy and superheroes and demons and goblins and sorcery and sci-fi, and reality can't be like people can't handle religion at a real level. Like it gets scary for them. Now, to me, the messenger of Allah, yes, he is a human being, but he's the best of humans. I don't need, you see, to kind of say, oh, like I don't need these kind of things which I don't find them to, like I feel that they do clash with other verses of the Quran where the Prophet is openly saying that, look, I can't do these kind of things. So I find that one, the chains have issues with them. Two, they do clash with other verses of the Quran and things like this. And three, we don't need these. I feel it's redundant trying to have super stories to make him an amazing person. He is for us the best of amazing people. But that's the beauty. He is, as a human, the best of people for us. Because if we start saying he's superhuman, then he's not a role model for us. Like how can a superhuman be a role model for humans? It doesn't make sense. And this is when Ibn al-Jawzi said, look, the first condition of a hadith to be accepted is it does not contradict with reason. ما لم يباين المعقول. And لم يخالف المنقول. And here it does both. It goes against the verses, goes against reason, and the chains itself have problems in them. So I would say, look, that's me. If people want to believe, look, why did these stories come about then? Maybe this was the experience of Jabir and some people. First of all, I don't believe it's authentic, but if you do want to accept it, maybe things. Secondly, sometimes when you love somebody so much, somebody along the line is likely to exaggerate. And that's natural. Let's just take it now as an example. I've heard people themselves say to me, oh, you know, my Pir Sahib, this and this has happened to him. I've heard this from people telling me their own kind of spiritual guide has miracles happening to him all the time. Why? Because they love him so much, they will exaggerate. Okay. They will exaggerate. So, somebody said paradise is against reasoning. No, it's not, because paradise simply means an afterlife of bliss. So for life to stop with death and there will be no means of an afterlife is not against reason. It's against perception, but not reason. It's not unreasonable to suggest that people can life carry on. Is that unreasonable? It's not unreasonable. I mean, I don't believe so. Gori Shankar says, hello, Disco Molvi. Swagatam, Gori Shankar ji. Right, so now, so I would answer that point there. Okay, so I hope that the moon splitting. For the moon splitting, look, I've had in the past somebody say that this person, Mufti Abu Layth, this person denies verses of the Quran. Astaghfirullah. Kamal karte ho yaar. At least say some blags that I do. Like, don't just make stuff up. And they've said, look, he denies the moon splitting and he denies moon splitting, and they said, look, what about the clear verse of the Quran, اقتربت الساعة وانشق القمر, that the final hour has come close and the moon has been split in Surah Al-Qamar, the second verse. Now, part of the first, اقتربت الساعة وانشق القمر. Now, so people said he denies a verse of the Quran. Look, people, do not do these this is what so one of our friends would call a dirty one, a dirty, not a dirty one, a dirty one. This is, this one not nice, this one. You have to be honest. So when you're going to present your claims, be honest about them. You can say, look, some people believe this verse to mean this. But what did other people believe? Be honest, right? So let's have disclosure. So this people is one of my indirect teachers who my chains of transmissions go through Sidi Bu Khubza, Ibn Ashur, the Sheikh al-Islam of his time, people, who passes away in the 60s, the grand Mufti of the Malikiya, Ibn Ashur, who I am also an indirect student of, but on somebody who championed the school of reason, for the Malikiya, and is rated throughout unanimously. His tafsir, his commentary on the Quran is in 30 volumes. So if we go to his commentary on this, for example, this first verse, that اقتربت الساعة وانشق القمر, that the hour has come close and the moon has been cleft asunder. Okay, so or has split. Right, so now he says, look, that there are right, he says, look, there are transmissions about this in Sahih al-Bukhari and in Tirmidhi from Anas ibn Malik and other companions. And he says that, look, and many people, he says, well, that many people say that in Mecca, so okay, here's the narration, that these people are referring to, that in Mecca, people were there, this is whilst the Prophet was in Mecca, and the kuffar had asked the Prophet for a sign, that show us a sign, and they said, split the moon for us, and the Prophet said, okay, and he split the moon, and then we could see half the moon on top of the mountain, and they say they were on Abu Qubays, that's a mountain in Mecca. There is another one as well, Al-Qu'ayqi'an, another mountain as well. So between these two mounts, and one side of the moon was at the bottom or something like this. Now, Ibn Ashur says, وَالْعُمْدَةُ فِي هَذَا التَّعْوِيلِ عَلَى حَدِيثِ عَبْدِ اللَّهِ ibn Mas'ud فِي الصَّحِيحِ. He says, and what they rely upon for this interpretation is the hadith of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud in Bukhari. إِنْ شَقَّ الْقَمَرُ وَنَحْنُ مَعَ النَّبِيِّ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وسلم بِمِنَى. That we were at Mina with the Prophet and the moon was split. فِرْقَتَيْن, into two pieces. فِرْقَةً فَوْقَ الْجَبَلِ وَفِرْقَةً دُونَ. A part of it above the mountain and a part of it below. Now, فَقَالَ لَنَا رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وسلم. Then the Messenger of Allah said, إِشْهَدُوا إِشْهَدُوا, that bear witness, bear witness. زَادَ فِي رِوَايَةِ التِّرْمِذِي, and in the transmission of Tirmidhi, he added, and he meant اقتربت الساعة وانشق القمر. And this is transmitted by Ibn Abbas, that about the mountain of Qu'ayqi'an, half of the moon was on Qu'ayqi'an, half of it on Abu Qubays. These are two mountains. And then this same thing has been transmitted by Ali ibn Abi Talib, Ibn Abbas, Ali ibn Abi Talib, Ibn Abbas, Ibn Umar, Hudhayfat ibn al-Yaman, Anas bin Malik, Jubair ibn Mut'im. So you've got already these 6 people. And then he mentions, now Ibn Ashur is saying, so okay, besides Ali and Ibn Abbas and Ibn Umar, the rest of them were not even in Mecca. Right, these people were not in Mecca at that time, and they weren't Muslims at that time. Okay, so he says, وَلَمْ يُسْلِمُوا إِلَّا بَعْدَ الْهِجْرَةِ. But perhaps they're saying, so okay, so we've already got them saying this is how it happened. We already know that they weren't actually there. Right, so okay, but that's fine. Maybe they heard it from somebody. And then he says, وَظَاهِرُ بَعْضُ الرِّوَايَاتِ, but some of the narrations for Hadith ibn Mas'ud in Tirmidhi mention that this will be that when the mushrikun asked about the splitting of to show them a sign, وَسَأَلُوهُ, that they said, split the moon for us, right? This is referring to a splitting of the moon at the apocalypse, when the world will come to an end. Okay. And he says, and this understanding that the splitting of the moon, it is what has been said by Hassan al-Basri, Ata, and he says that is, Ibn Ashur is saying the same, this refers similarly to the following verses that will come in this surah that mention فَإِذَا بَرِقَ الْبَصَرِ, and when the sight is impacted, وَخَسَفَ الْقَمَرِ, and the moon has been eclipsed. This is what it was referring to. And that is when Allah is saying towards the day of judgment, that when the world comes to an end. Now he says, he goes on to say, look, now just to move on, he says that, look, وَعَنِ الْحَسَنِ وَعَطَاء, that the splitting of the moon will be عند القيامة, will be when it's the day of judgment, as in the world comes to an end. وَاخْتَارَهُ الْقُشَيْرِ, and Qushayri said that, and Balkhi transmitted it, and Mawardi said it was the opinion of the Jamhur, although it can be disputed, but that's what Mawardi said. Look, I'm not making this stuff up. This is what he said. And then he says, Ibn Ashur says, وَلَيْسَ لَفْظُ هَذِهِ الْآيَةِ صَرِيحًا فِي وُقُوعِهِ. The wording of this verse is not clear that it happened. Okay, but he's debating it. He's saying, okay, perhaps you might say this, perhaps. He's saying, okay, and then he goes with the entertainment. He says, okay, let's say it did happen. Let's say he goes with this understanding that the splitting of the moon was a phenomenon that occurred. He says, فَيَجُوزُ أَن يَكُونَ قَدْ حَدَثَ خَسْفٌ عَظِيمٌ فِي كُرَّةِ الْقَدَمِ. أحدث في وجهه. So now he says it's possible that the moon had a major kind of like a certain eclipse to it, right? Which أحدث في وجهه هوة لاحت للناظرين في سورة شقه, which made it appear as though the moon has been split. Or this can also include, by the way, if there was a almost like when the ground is sunk, like if there was something like this, or an earthquake or something like that resembling on the moon. He's giving an example. It could be, or it could be an eclipse. Or he says وَيَجُوز, and it's possible it could have been قَدْ حَصَلَ فِي الْأُفُقِ, in the horizon بين السمت القمر وسمت الشمس مرور جسم سماوي, that there were certain things like an asteroid belt, or parts like certain things, let's say whether they're meteors or certain things in space that come between the horizon and the moon, that give an appearance of the moon splitting. And then he says وممكن, and that it was أن يكون هذا الانشقاق حدثا مركبا, there could have been multiple things happening. So for example, that there was a lunar eclipse, a partial lunar eclipse. He goes on to say also that you could have certain clouds are known to reflect things. So if there was an eclipse and a cloud is reflecting a certain amount of light in the desert, it could be seen as the moon from another part of the moon from a mountain. This is Ibn Ashur saying. I'm not saying. He is the Shaykh al-Islam of his time, the Grand Mufti of the Malikiyah. He is saying this. And he says, وَهَذَا مِنْ غَرَائِبِ حَوَادِثِ الْجَوْءِ. هَذَا مِنْ غَرَائِبِ حَوَادِثِ الْجَوْءِ. And this is from the strange thing from the strange phenomenon of kind of climate and weather, that these things do happen, but they are rarities, but they do happen. And he says, and this is how we explain the verse, وَإِذَا نَتَقْنَا الْجَبَلْ فَوْقَهُمْ. And when Allah says about the mountain appearing above them, above Bani Israel, it only appeared. It wasn't actually a mountain floating around. It appeared because of the weather and the climate in their time. He then says, وَيُؤَيِّدُ هَذَا. This is supported with the riwayah of Tabrani, وَابْنُ مَارْدْوَيْ مِنْ طَرِيقِ إِكْرَمَةِ and Ibn Abbas, where Ibn Abbas says that كُسِفَ الْقَمَرِ, that the moon was eclipsed على عهد رسول الله, from in the time of the Prophet. فَقَالُوا سَحِرَ الْقَمَرِ, that he has done magic. The Prophet has done magic on the moon. And then Ibn Abbas says the verse came down, اقتربت الساعة وانشق القمر, that the final hour is drawing near and the moon has been split, meaning it has been eclipsed. And Ibn Abbas called that an eclipse. So he says, look, this does not go against the miracle of the phenomenon, because the phenomenon was what they experienced. And that was sufficient. They said, show us this, and the moon appeared like that to them. It doesn't mean it had to have actually split, but it appeared like that and the job was done. But then it goes to show that how Allah says that, وَإِن يَرَوْا آيَةً يُعْرِضُوا, that even if they see a sign, they will turn away. So this is the point. So this, people, is not me making this stuff up. This is from Ibn Ashur, the Sheikh al-Islam in his time. The Grand Mufti of the Malikiya, people. The Grand Mufti of the Malikiya. My indirect teacher. So, look, and he is... So this is where... What I'm trying to say now is when people say, look, I believe this verse in the Quran means the moon actually split. Fine, that's your take on it. I'm not going to say your take has to be wrong. It's your take. I don't believe it happened like that. Many of the Salaf, Ata, Hassan, the narrations that have come, the Mufassirin have shown that that's not necessarily how it happened, right? There's a disagreement. So if you're going to say this to people, be honest. Show the whole discussion. Don't present all the Muslims have said this and now comes Mufti Abu Layth, who's the only person to say this. This one not nice, this one. Be honest, people. Be honest. You see, there's a talk of Hamza Yusuf where he says, Sheikh Hamza Yusuf, where he says, I love honesty. By the way, I love Sheikh Hamza Yusuf. So I'm just saying, so I love honesty, people. So, look, so be honest, show that, look, no, there is no agreement on this matter. And yes, if you want to take that, you can. If you want to take this, you can. It's all from the legacy of Islam. That's what I'm talking about, people. That's what I'm talking about. Right, check him out, dressed like a chav. Hi. A Patani Khan ji. You've been checking out a lot of chavs, haven't you? Well, you know where haters go. To oblivion. Right, so what's your IQ? I've forgotten now, but the last time I checked, which was many years ago, it did score above average, I must say. But it's been a while. Right, so good to see you. Likewise, Crazy Tani, good to see you. Do you not believe in these miracles? Like I said, I do not believe in the tree crying and these kind of things. I've already demonstrated that the chains are not conclusive as far as I'm concerned. I mentioned how the Bukhari ones have issues. The three people, the three chains. Even if you bring others, they have issues in them. Right? And I understand that these things are nice for Muslims. You know, like we want to hear these kind of things because it sounds nice. But the truth is, we don't need these things to show that the Prophet was a great and amazing person, because he was a great and amazing person. His own seerah, lifetime, is testament to that. The fact that he is one of the most followed people throughout the globe today, 1400 years later, is testament to that. We don't need stories of like trees used to talk to him or stones used to talk to him. These things in this day and age especially will become ridiculed by, and then it will take away from the glory of the Prophet. Because by the way, the Prophet in no hadith said this. This is not a hadith from the Prophet like that. This is a description from some companions saying that, oh, I saw this. It's not that the Prophet one day said, hey, by the way, this tree spoke to me. He never said that. But people are claiming this. And I've mentioned the chains are not are problematic. Right, now, I've been asked about the verse of Harut and Marut. I've answered this in my, if you watch my video, I did a course in the company of Sheikh Akram Nadwi on debunking myths within Islam, which included debunking the myth of possession, demonic possessions. There's no such thing as possessions, people. You do not get possessed by jinns. And there's no such thing as magic and sorcery. I explain what magic means, like hypnosis and trickery and using potions and quickness of the hand. But there's no, you know, like, I don't know, like kind of black magic or whatever people want to call it. In there, I do explain this verse. So if you haven't watched that, you can watch that clip. I believe it's on YouTube. It's on Facebook as well. You can check it out. Those of you just tuning in, by the way, click like, click share, people. Get this out there. That's what I'm talking about. Now, Harut and Marut, Allah does say in the Quran, it begins, وَمَا أُنزِلَ عَلَى الْمَالِكَيْنِ بِبَابِلَ هَارُوتَ وَمَارُوتَ. Now, who were these two people? Now, it does say ala malikain. Malikain, which means angels. In another riwayah, it's read as malikain, two kings. The general understanding is they were not angels. They were pious people who were like rulers. They were the kings of the place, which were really kind with people. And hence, they were referred to as two angels. And that's why Allah is referring to them with what people referred to them as. Not that they were in essence two angels. That's the understanding that, and Ibn Ashur has that discussion, and other people do as well. And Qurtubi has a similar discussion, and he says they weren't angels either. So, I mean, that's, I hope that helps. Okay. Right. I've been asked to speak about Mufti Ashraf. That's that Mufti or Sheikh Ashraf Sidat, I believe his name is. Sidat, I'm not sure how you pronounce it. Well, basically, I don't know. There's somebody said everybody's speaking about him. Can you say something about him? He's somebody who got stung in in one of these underage sex sting operations where he was going to see an underage boy, 15 years old, for a special encounter. Right, and he got stung, right? Basically, a pedophile. These people do bring shame onto... You see, first of all, this isn't an Islamic issue. This isn't... I mean, what I mean by that is this isn't a Muslim community thing per se. Although it does fall back, unfortunately, on the whole Muslim community. Especially when, you see, the media picks up on these things, and the media loves to go to town on these things. So it says, Muslim court. And this person, obviously, because he's a scholar, it makes it so much worse. I mean, it's a shame that these kind of things happen. These things really... Ya salam, ya salam. And this is my point. You know what I want to... You know, this is why I get really annoyed sometimes when I'm speaking to people and they have all this... Like, in the West, people have this kind of very holier-than-thou attitude. And you think, wait a minute. And they have a very homophobic attitude as well. And this is very like a Muslim Western phenomenon. It's actually not so much in the Eastern world, believe it or not. Because a lot of them there are actually quite bisexual. So here, you've got a lot of this, and they're very homophobic. And many of them are like closet gays. And this was my theory. And I was saying this, that look, many of these people who are strongly homophobic, it's because they have like homosexual tendencies which they're struggling with. And so they kind of project their demons and chastise them out there. So this is what a lot of psychology kind of demonstrates as well. And you get people like Edgar Hoover and all these, who was very homophobic, but then was caught out as a cross-dresser and all these kind of things. So this person too, I mean, it's utterly, unacceptable. And he's been caught, and obviously he's going to get... As I said to some people with other words, I said he's going to get done, just not the way he hoped. He's going to get... So basically, the system is going to give him a good seeing to, but it's just not the one he hoped for. Naughty, you. Ya salam. May Allah rid really the community and the whole world from such people. Seriously, this kind of exploitative underage thing, and in light of that, on a more in light of that, there was the tragic incident of Zainab in Pakistan, and it shocked Pakistan and it shook kind of Pakistan, and although I think now it's just quietened down, and I think it's a shame that people like that are still roaming loose. The things they do are sickening. I mean, especially with that Zainab. Obviously, she was found. I don't know whether it was what they said is gang raped and strangled to death and chucked in a heap of trash, and disgusting. Honestly, I couldn't even share it. Honestly, that's how disgusting I found it, and not just disgusting, but how kind of there's people out there that will do these things. And in Pakistan, I believe that I mean, I'm not saying it's a rampant phenomenon, that it's happening every other day, but there have been other cases and the police haven't caught them. It's a shame, honestly, disappointing. I do hope they catch him. I hope the person pays heavily. I'm somebody opposed to capital punishment, although I could be reasoned over for cases like this. But I'm heavily I just find it so disgusting. Maybe things like capital punishment are too easy as well for people like that. But yeah, these things do exist. Somebody made a post as well saying, look, these things do exist in the Muslim communities. We should stop saying that, pretending that they don't exist, or we should stop deflecting onto other communities. True, they do exist in the Muslim communities, unfortunately. Pedophilia, stuff like this. I think what doesn't help as well, I see people, non-Muslims, trying to say that, oh, Muslims justify this by trying to say you're allowed to marry 7-year-old girls and 9-year-old girls, and they use the thing of the Prophet to show that. I mean, I don't believe that the Prophet married a girl. I find those transmissions baseless, unacceptable. I've done a whole video dedicated to that. Please watch my video. It's on YouTube, The Age of Aisha, and I demonstrate she was in her late teens. And this is why I urge Muslims to not spread things like that, because it gives people more ammunition to kind of just attack Muslims as a whole. Because in all honesty, these sick, disgusting pedophiles, right, they do not use those kind of hadith or these kind of things. That's BS, okay, that they use things like that. But to non-Muslims, when somebody says that, it's believable. Do you understand? Like, it's like saying, oh yeah, well, they believe their Prophet did things like this. Look, it's in their books. And so it's believable to them. Although these people do not use things like that. It's not that they one day read this and they're just sick, disturbed, just like pathologically ill people, right? That are like, rotten to the core. That's who they are. But then Islam gets kind of tainted with this brush. So it is disturbing. And I think Muslims have, unfortunately, and the Pakistanis community has, and although this person who I was asked to speak, comment on, Sheikh Mufti Ashraf uh, who, I don't know what's going on with him right now. Wrong'un, that's what they call him. Wrong'uns, right? So this person, he right now, I mean, he's not from the Pakistani community, although he's Muslim, but I'm just saying, in the UK, the Pakistani community have really been kind of given a bad name for this sex grooming kind of gangs and stuff like this. Although I do think it's disproportionately represented and the media kind of just takes a hype every time it's a Muslim. That said, I do hope that inshallah these, these kind of illnesses, these kind of sickness disappears, first and foremost from the Muslim community and then from humanity as a whole, regardless if they're Muslim or non-Muslim. Because non-Muslims do sicker I was about to just swear then. They do sicker stuff than this. And but when a Muslim does it, the religion's dragged into it. And so now, like, this guy's done this, people, like, even those, if you watch that Facebook live video of his where he got busted, they were saying, oh, but what does your religion say about this? And somebody commenting did say, to be fair, look, why are you bringing religion into it? Which I think was a good point. Look, why are you bringing religion into it? If you had caught a white guy, which you do, which they do catch white people as well, you don't say, hey, what does atheism or what does Christianity or what does civil value, you don't bring other things into it. So when it's a Muslim, but I know they're going to say, because they said, oh yeah, we're just saying that because according to his religion, it's wrong as well. But still, so okay, that's my comment on it. It's sick, disgusting, and may Allah rid the humanity of this sickness. Ameen. Ameen. Right, okay. Next question, people. What have I been asked? Okay, I've been asked, by the way, that look, what about this hadith to do with the Prophet and heart surgery? This kind of like the Prophet was, according to a hadith, the angel Jibreel, Gabriel, came to the Prophet and he cut his chest apart and washed his heart with Zamzam. Is this incident true? Is it real? Did this really happen? Okay, well, this incident, first of all, the scholars are not sure about, there's a huge amount of dispute about this incident to start off with. This thing of, if we can call it the washing of the heart or the heart surgery for the Prophet, this thing, the scholars disagree. They did this, they feel it happened on more than one occasion. Ibn Hajar says it happened 3 times. Other scholars say no, it happened 2 times. The narrations they generally bring in Sahihain, in Bukhari, etc., are to do with the Isra, the night journey. When the Prophet says that, oh, and Jibreel came and he took my heart out and this and then he proceeded on this night journey. I have already answered that many companions, including the wife of the Prophet Aisha radiallahu anha and Muawiyah radiallahu anh, and certain people coming from then, have believed that the night journey was a vision. So in light with that, and I've said that is my understanding too, and that is what the Quran apparently reads. So in the same surah, Surah Al-Isra, Allah says towards verse 60 that وَمَا جَعَلْنَا الرُّؤْيَا الَّتِي أَرَيْنَاكَ, we didn't make this vision which we showed you except a trial for people. Now this, so Allah uses the term vision in Surah Al-Isra. Now in light with that, that's fine. This, if we are going to accept this hadith, as long as it's part of the vision, it's not a problem. Right. Do I believe in actual chest surgery and the heart was washed of the Prophet? I don't believe this actually happened, no. As to the other narration that this happened when the Prophet was a child, those narrations are not established. Okay, they've got problems with the chain, anything to do with pre-Islam. So we're saying that the Prophet was, they disagree, that some people say he was 4 years old when this happened, and the Prophet's not saying this himself. Some people are saying that, oh, these other boys who were like 2 years old at the time are telling this story. And some say there were 3, some say there were 4. And these people are telling this story, these little children who were not Muslim, because this is when the Prophet himself was maybe 4 years old. This happened. Any of these stories to do with pre-Islam are not established. Right? These are just stories which people told. Now, and the chain has been problematized. And I remember once having a discussion with Sheikh Ninawi from America, and he I don't know about today, whether he's of the same belief today, but at the time, a few years back when we had this discussion, he also said that he was not content with this chain being authentic, and this narration was problematic and not true, not correct. So in my understanding, that this the incident prior, when the Prophet was a little child, 3-4 years old, that is not established, and the children around him telling this story is not an established fact. Okay, as to the correct narrations, which are, let's say, the more authentic narrations in Bukhari and Muslim and things like this, they are to do with Isra, the night journey. And the night journey, we've already said, is a vision, in my understanding, so it has no problem. Okay, so this is all part of the vision. Right, okay, let's move on, people. What are the questions? How come they knew open heart surgery stay alive in ice water? So even if the chain is not authentic, how come they knew open heart surgery says stay alive in ice water? Fahim Firdaus Khalil, who said they knew those procedures? Zamzam water is not ice water, by the way. I'm just saying, just to remind you, Arabia is a desert. You do not generally find ice. Although, arguably, maybe at some places you can, but generally that was not the climate in Mecca, that they had like cool ice drinks. I think you're looking at my drinks and getting confused. Right, next question. Right, so let's take another question. They had freezers. कमाल करते हो यार. कमाल करते हो पांडे जी. Do I believe that early scholars did matn criticism? I believe it was their theory and principle, but they didn't do it as much as they ought to have. So that's... Somebody's asked about the Imam in Blackburn being caught on paedophilia. Rashid Latif, I've just spoken about that just literally 5 minutes ago. So you can watch this again and rewind it after I've finished and have a listen again. I've condemned it, obviously, all this sickness, but have a listen again. Can you explain the concept of backbiting? Okay. Backbiting, everybody knows what backbiting is. These things in Islam are about good manners, and it's really about not causing discord, disunity, preventing fights, preventing bloodshed, preventing all these kind of things when people backbite and backstab and do all these kind of things. Does that mean you can't talk about people? You can talk about people. Does it mean you can't mock people's ideas? You can. Does it mean... These things don't fall under that kind of backbiting. And how do I know this? Because the scholars do this all the time. Their books are full of it. So that's not the purpose of backbiting. You've got to look at the objectives of Islam. The objectives of backbiting were not to cause it's usually when, like, we're sitting with people and say, hey, do you know what so-and-so has done? And I'm trying to cause trouble. And we all know what it is. It's called beep, stirring. Stirring, right? It's called... Everybody knows the terminology, right? So... Right, so now... So that's what kind of backbiting is haram. When you go to people, namima, you know, when you say things like, oh, do you know what so-and-so said about you? You know, you should go... Fight. And people, trust me, in human history, so much tragedy has occurred because of stuff like this. You know, because of people just putting in doubt in the hearts and minds of people. So this is why you should avoid this kind of stuff. Right, so what is the ruling in Islam on wearing clothes that are tight? Rashid Latif. Hi, nutty. Wearing tight clothes? Don't wear them. Well, obviously, you know the aura for men and women is categorized different. So, yeah, you see, look, sometimes we know the answers to certain questions. And then we just have problems with that. I would say, look, don't concern yourself so much about other people. Concern yourself with yourself. If you feel uncomfortable in something, don't do it. If you feel something is wrong, don't do it. Right? Can we not stick to Sahih Hadith? Right, can we not stick to Sahih Hadith? Of course we can stick to Sahih Hadith. But as long as Ibn al-Jawzi says, and Suyuti and all these people explain, that as long as it doesn't clash with, they begin with the first principle, ما لم يبين المعقول, it doesn't clash with reason, لم يخالف المنقول, it doesn't contradict with transmissions like Quran and more authentic texts, ولم يناقض الأصول, and it doesn't clash against established principles in Islam. So, yep, of course. Right, so let's take a question. I think these were the kind of questions I'd already... There was a question here, concealing sins. Somebody said, can I say da'if? Da'if! 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 That really bothered some people, didn't it? Islamic finance, I've done a whole video, I've done a whole section before. Search it on YouTube. My ruling on riba, interest. Islamic finance fits right into that, okay? And can we use weak hadith to promote virtuous actions? I would say, look, if those actions fall under general established principles, fine. Although personally I'm not too much in favor of weak hadith, but if it's going to help somebody in some general thing, okay, fine. Like, so let's say as an example, let's say we know that in the Quran Allah tells you to make dua, the Prophet has taught us to make dua whenever we want. That's an established principle. Now let's say we find a hadith with a specific dua that is at the time of need, and although this chain is problematic, but it's just a dua that resonates well with you, so you want to make that dua, I would say fine. There's these kind of things, there's no harm in stuff like that. The problem is when you try to build rulings from scratch with weak hadith. Do you know Sheikh Bilal, specialist in Islamic finance? Bilal, is that Bilal Khan? I believe so, yes. Sheikh Bilal came to visit us. We had a very interesting, very kind of an awesome evening, actually, several hours. If that's the same one, I could be wrong, but I believe so. Bilal Khan, Sheikh Bilal Khan from up north. Right, so, is that a dog chain? This is a razor, people. Hell yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Why do I wear it around my neck? It kind of reminds me, it's to remember my kind of circumcision. It was a difficult time. It's to always think back to that time. Which then stands as a metaphor that even some of the best things in life, they have to take a loss. Oh, I'm going to get some fatwas for that. But oh, so anyway, coming back to this, right now, I've been asked about concealing sins, that a husband and wife, should they, if they've previously been, shall we say, very active, if husband and wife have previously had a life enriched by Red Bull, if they've been taking their daily vitamins and all the amino acids, so should they discuss this with each other before getting married, or once they're married? Should they kind of, should there be full disclosure? You know, like the legal, we need full disclosure. So he starts to narrate. So the guy starts saying, yeah, and then he gets carried away as he's recounting these stories. He goes, yeah, and then there was the one that was, and he gets really into it. He goes, oh yeah, oh yeah, then there was, oh yeah, oh my time of, oh yeah, that holiday, oh that was so, oh sorry. They both get too much into character. They go, oh yeah, oh yeah. Oh, funny you should ask. Oh, that was, oh boy. Say, rather than going through them, why don't I just give you links to my website and you can just watch? You can just go through all the recordings if you want. I've just, you know, I often, you know, I just share them on my performances. Right, okay, that's how not to do it, people. That's how that's how not to get married. Do not be sharing your previous enthusiasms. Okay, that is totally, look, it's, do not go for this, I want transparency. Trust me, you don't. Why do you, I mean, you don't need it. Don't worry about it. Look, as a guy, if the woman has had relationships, or many relationships, or a few relationships, who cares? What's the big deal? Yeah, why are you so insecure? You're afraid you're not going to match up. Be confident in yourself, yar. Look, the thing is, I think these are insecurities people have. Relax, chill out. It's not a competition. And you know this, no, we should be open. It's only going to breed, nice choice of words, it's only going to breed an air of suspicion amongst you. Like, people will be like, and this is when you get people saying things like, oh, she's on her phone, is it that guy again? Oh, is that guy back in touch? Or is, so she used to do this. Or she might think, well, he used to do all this, well, is that what he's up to again? Is this what, look, do not kind of bring, you don't need to bring these things up. People may have had, I mean, you may find out, like, so for example, you might say things like, oh, right, so what was going on? And maybe, like, a girl might say, look, I was trying to get, you know, I was looking to get married to this guy, whatever, it didn't work out, or whatever, or I've been looking, and you might say, look, or I've been looking, and, you know, it's not really worked out. That, obviously, when you say I've been looking, that means, obviously, it's been people you've been looking at. You know, obviously, what the hell were you looking at? Obviously, people. So you've been engaging with it, right? So, you know, you've been in search, or whatever, and now you've arrived at this point. And so the main thing is that you move forward. some people get really insecure on this kind of stuff, and oh, are you a virgin? I mean, what's up with that? Seriously, look, in this day and age, these things are absurd. In this day and age, in this part of the world, this kind of stuff is absurd. And you don't, once again, it comes back to just insecurities. And trust me, I keep kind of like holding myself back on not being able to say what I really want to say, because I'm thinking everybody's going to go, what the? So look, just relax. Do not go through your kind of past lives. I mean, if you want to say, look, I've been in some relationships or whatever, that's fine. You know, but you don't need to kind of give nitty-gritty detail or say, you know, oh, have you been in any relationships? Well, you know, I had a feeling you might ask. Here's a box of my DVDs that I've made earlier. This is just series 1. This is the first season. And then I've got like, this goes on for 7 seasons, by the way. So, you know, you don't need to kind of do all that kind of stuff. So all you really need to do is just be normal, be human, just chat, have a conversation. People say, oh, but you know, you're going to flirt. Well, of course you're going to flirt. That's like, duh. People get so weird about this kind of stuff. Astaghfirullah. And you know, I'll tell you something Muslim people do a lot. When they want to get all like, they want to refute you, they'll say, oh, imagine it's your sister. I mean, like, okay, they say, should I imagine my sister doing that then? It's like, you sicko. What kind of a sick imagination have you got? Why are you imagining your sister doing these things? I mean, that's like seriously disturbing. like, no, why should I imagine my sister? It's like, imagine your sister. Like, no, you sicko. Why should I'm not, just because you probably imagine those things, don't try to make me imagine that. I don't want to. So you get like religious people will say things like, oh, so am I supposed to imagine my sister now sitting out meetings? Some people saying, oh, so she's going for a conversation to meet somebody, she's married now, and the guy can flirt. Oh. It's like, relax. Because I'm sure every woman you've ever looked at in that naughty way, and do not lie that you have not. If you've never done that, then you're just seriously gay. And every single woman you've ever looked at like that, she's somebody's daughter too. She's somebody, but that's just the way of the world, isn't it? It's not like this kind of stuff. You do not need to, you know, it's this kind of fake stuff that gets people then, one, it makes the religion look dumb. And then 2, that's why these people get exposed. Because they act so kind of like super something that nobody is in front of people. And then, lo and behold, they are human just like everybody. In fact, they're worse. So these are the kind of things. So I would say, look, keep things natural, people. Okay, I tell you what, any rapid round before we go? Shall we say a few minutes of rapid round? I'll knock this drink. All right, what are we looking at, people? Allah. People, la pila de saqiya, peimana peimane ke baad. He says to the person giving the drinks, keep them coming. Hosh ki baat karunga, hosh mein aane ke baad. We'll speak about sobriety once we're sober. What's the rush? What's the rush, people? What's the rush? He follows it by saying, is it? Zindagi mein sari do hi waqt guzre hain katin. That only 2 times, 2 events in my life have been unbearable. Allah! Katin prashan. Been like so unbearable. Ik tere aane se pehle, ik tere jaane ke baad. That's the one event before you arrive and the second after you've gone. People, let's have some rapid round questions and then we'll wrap it up. What are we looking at? Early scholars do matn criticism. We need a lot more matn criticism. I agree with you. Ik tere aane se pehle, ik tere jaane ke baad. What is the reality behind dreams one has? Hasib, I don't believe dreams necessarily have that kind of reality, although sometimes maybe, they've inspired people to do certain things, and that's good. If they freak people out, then in reality, I don't think they actually mean much. Mere zindagi ke dushman. How come you're drinking? Get real, man, Sadiq. It's a reverse camera. The camera portrait. Hukam for intergender. Get into the other gender. For communication between the genders, shared space between the gender is absolutely fine. It's natural. It's a natural phenomenon. It occurred in the time of the Prophet in all the spaces, beginning from the Masjid, the mosque. The Prophet's mosque, by today's religious people's standards, would be condemned. Okay, they would condemn it for being too liberal. The Prophet's mosque, Prophet could have put up a barrier, but no, Prophet did not do these things. So I mean, from the mosque to the marketplace, they were all shared spaces between the genders. So it's fine. Right, and people say, but what if this is going to happen, that's going to happen? Well, relax. Calm yourself. This and that's happening anyway. You're just not a part of it. The party's already happening. You just haven't been invited. Get with the program. Come on, people. Where did the barrier come from? People made it up much later. They made it up. So, some rapid rant. Oh, by the way, I was going to mention, with this washing the heart of the Prophet, I'd made a note to mention this hadith, but I'd forgotten to mention it. It ties in well that where these kind of other influences come into Islam, sometimes Christian influences and things like that, in relation to this washing the heart, because the scholars said, the heart of the Prophet was washed to purify it, which once again shows the people struggling to cope with reality. They need a fantasy religion, and they need the Prophet to not be human but to be superhuman. There's a hadith in Bukhari, that ties in with this, you see, and it shows the Christian influence. Look, hadith in Bukhari from Abu Hurairah radiallahu anh saying that ma min bani Adam mawlud, that there has never been a person, including the prophets, that the sons of the children of Adam that has been born, illa massahu shaitan, except the shaitan will kind of like touch him at birth. He will be touched by the devil. This is a hadith in Bukhari. Ghair, except Maryam wabnaha, except Maryam and her son, Jesus. That's a Sahih hadith in Bukhari. Tell me, is that not a Christian influence? So the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, all the other prophets were born with the devil touching them, except Jesus and Mary? Is that not a problem? No hay problema? Huh? No hay de qué? That's a big problem. So, So this is what I mean. This is what I mean. Así es, hermano, así es. This is how it is, man. That's what I'm saying. These things, this is why we have to sift and kind of filter through the matn, the content of these ahadith, and we've got to analyze and evaluate and see that, oh, there may be some hidden influences here. Right, so any final questions before any rapid round, before we shoot off? Anything going down, people? What's going down? What's happening? ¿Qué hubo? ¿Qué onda? ¿Qué onda actually sounds like the Punjabi. ¿Qué onda? ¿Qué onda is Espanol, by the way. Spanish for like, what's up? What's happening? What is the reality of hell? Obviously, I said quick questions, but in essence, nobody really knows. All we know is that it's Allah speaking in the afterlife of a kind of a punishment for people who disbelieve. Does it have to be literal? It doesn't have to be literal, because Ibn Abbas said that anything that's mentioned in the Quran is just the only commonality is the words. The reality, the Prophet said, nobody can even conceive the reality of the afterlife. So, right, pictures with faces at home. Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you're going to have pictures, they should have faces. Imagine just looking at a bunch of pictures with like the face blurred out. I tell you, that would be freaky as hell. Somebody should do that as a social experiment. Call somebody to that and just have loads of photos with the face kind of like blurred, like just kind of smudged, like they've got no face. Be freaky as hell, man. On that note, I was reading about the Victorian practice that when people would die, they would take a photo of them after their death. And the way they would do it, they had a whole practice of they would sit them up and they would make them kind of tie them onto this frame that would hold them up, and they would stand with family members. And the only thing they couldn't get was their eyes. So what they used to do is they would paint their eyes, they would close them and paint them on top. Really interesting. Some of them look freaky as hell, I'm telling you. Are dogs allowed in the house? Yes, they are. Dogs are allowed in the house. Although generally speaking, Muslim culture doesn't like that and appreciate it. So if you are around Muslims, just be sensitive to that culture. But in the Maliki school, all animals, life necessitates purity. All animals are pure if you touch them, or their saliva, or things like this, or their sweat, including pigs. So that includes dogs too. And you can keep dogs. And those hadith that said you shouldn't keep dogs, Ibn Abi Zayd, in his time, he was known as Young Malik, they used to have dogs. And people said to him that didn't the Prophet and the companions forbid this, prohibit having dogs? And he said if they lived in our day and age, they would have kept lions, let alone dogs. So, yep, they are allowed. But generally the culture, you got to be sensitive as well to the culture. People, the Hanafis believe, and the Shafi'is believe dogs to be impure. And so if they lick them, they feel they have to wash it off and it's impure. The Maliki school doesn't, but they do, so they might feel, oh my God, I can't pray now because it licked my clothes. And they generally don't like dogs as a cultural thing. So me being Pakistani, for example, Pakistanis are like, if there's a dog here, if there's the devil here, we'll be okay with the devil. But with a dog, no. We'll be like... we just can't. And that's not now religious, that's just like cultural. So they'll probably feel uncomfortable around dogs, but that's like a cultural. I've heard that said about black people as well. I don't know if it's true, but definitely it's true about Pakistanis. Right, so okay, people, I think with that, shall we wrap it up? It's been an awesome session, people. That's what I'm talking about. Super fantastico. Right, that's what I'm talking about. Like my Facebook pages, people. I've only got two. They're with the same name, Mufti Abu Layth. My normal Facebook page and the public page. Like them both. You can follow me on both. Share them. Check out my videos. I have been asked what's going on with the hadith classes. What it is I've been doing some kind of booster research to improve my own knowledge as well. and it's really interesting. I've been really kind of looking into certain things from Hadithi perspectives and enhancing my own kind of knowledge in it, and it's fabulous. I'm loving it. So I've just been immersed in that right now, and so because of that, I want to, rather than carry on with the Hadith classes, I want to kind of just finish this. It's probably going to take me a few weeks, maybe a month or two. I want to finish this kind of, these booster kind of knowledge kind of courses that I've set up for myself. Then share that with people when I'm doing my classes, rather than say something and then realize, oh, actually I've got an improved understanding now. Because I'm going through some Hadithi things and some books on Ilal, which are like hidden defects within Hadith and stuff like that, and I'm finding it amazing. So rather than just share what I've got now, I'd rather enhance it and then share it. So I'm putting the classes off for maybe a month and a half or something like this, and then come back to them as I finish my own kind of booster sessions. And I think it's important for scholars to kind of to enhance our knowledge every once in a while, to kind of like catch on to something and then just kind of immerse ourselves in it. Yeah, so that's in reference to the classes. I am, by the way, looking for some personal assistance. If you've got some time on your hands, and it could be remote personal assistance, but you're prepared, you know, you've got some knowledge on things like editing, uploading, audio extraction, stuff like this, and you want to kind of help out with my whole thing, you want to be a part of my whole kind of this thing, then do reach out to me, inshallah. And in turn, you know, at least we could kind of, I could help you develop your own kind of knowledge, your learning, input in your life, things like that. Have that kind of a relationship. And so it could be distant, as long as you've got access to the internet and you have some skills and you have some time. So I know in the past I did get some people, but then they've got a lot of commitments, and so then it becomes a problem, because I mean, because I don't like bothering people, so this is another thing. So as long as you've got some, you're on it basically, then give me a shout, message me privately, right? And inshallah that'll be awesome. If you're on Snapchat, you can add me, Malm2014, MALM2014, inshallah. Other than that, people, subhanallahi wa ta'ala amma yasifoon. Allah is transcendent and above that which they attribute to him. Wa afdalu salati wa salam ala al-qa'il al-mamnoon. The best of blessings and salutations upon the Messenger of Allah, the Blessed, who said, Al-Madinatu khayrul lahum law kanu ya'lamoon. That indeed Medina is better for them if but only they knew. Take very good care of yourselves, and I'll see you all inshallah next week. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.